Alright, just one thing arrived today. Let me just get it out. Love Flops. Which I don't think this is a re-release, but as a Sentai release, it's hard to tell sometimes. They don't make their re-releases very obvious. I would worry that it could be for deceptive reasons, but it could also just be because, if they, if they release it and say Super Collector's Edition or something, maybe it's not quite as neat as buying an individual thing. Oh, audio, English dub, Region A. I guess to girls. I'm just trying to remember if I did buy this before. I'm pretty sure I didn't, and I just haven't seen it. So I'm not sure what to think about it, but it's small. But here's this week's anime Blu-ray collection update. Sorry, I'm supposed to call it the physical anime collection update. Here's this week's physical anime collection update. Alright, let's see. Yeah, we'll just start going down the list. So I watched 5, that's actually 6 more episodes of Drugstore in Another World. Not like the most compelling thing to watch ever, but it's just kind of amusing and nice to have. And I do think I want to get to the last episode, because the last episode's like, and here's kind of the setup for the isekai. I think that's what I heard, and that's what it looks like it maybe is, but I'm not there yet. I think I lost steam over the weekend because of other stuff, but let's go on. Villainous Level 99. So my joke about this episode, I thought it was an entertaining episode. It felt like it could maybe be better, but a funny thing about it is you can, I guess, make jokes about shoujo anime needing their bitches, and in this case, you watch this and the bitches are the 3 male love interests that our main character pretty much shows up. And I guess it's just kind of funny to call them that, just because they handled it like pretty pathetic people. And I think they just simply get amusingly worse as they go. So, entertaining enough. I kind of felt like the characterization of the main character didn't feel perfect regarding, I guess, like, it wants to put out that she's kind of indifferent, not wanting to do stuff, and not draw attention to herself. And I think that makes some sense. It's a very Japanese way of maybe being, I guess. Except that she kind of feels like she isn't, and she's like, yeah, I guess I'm going to be doing this anyway, so whatever. And some of it makes sense, but some of it just feels a little bit off. It's just like, I don't know. It's not bad. It's definitely exciting. I want to see episode 3. My work friend was getting me excited thinking that episode 3 actually came out tonight, Monday, 22nd, but it's actually tomorrow, but that's okay. Next episode, Gushing Over Magical Girls, episode 3. So this is the 3 episode mark, and so far, it's continued to just be interesting. It's really hard to put my entire finger on it, but there's definitely something about the main character that is enjoyably sinister. Like, I really like that element that it brings, and the interactions with the characters are just a little bit more dynamic than I would have thought. So amusing. Trying to think if there's anything about that I would say is strong story-wise, and it's hard to tell. So it's hard to tell if it was a good 3-episode introduction to the series. I'll have to watch more of it, but so far it seems fine. A Classroom of the Elite Season 3, Episode 3. What even happened in this episode? Oh yes, a lot of people contacting our main character. Like, I guess it's setting a lot of stuff up, and I'm trying to remember what it all is, but I don't know, it was a lot of stuff. And maybe it's okay. Something about it maybe doesn't feel complete, but it's whatever. Dr. Elise, the Royal Lady with the Lamp, Episode 2. Let's see. I think I like the setup it's still doing, but I'm wanting to see what it'll do once it gets actually in gear. Like, I would say that I kind of had, maybe not a big issue, but just kind of a eyebrow raise about she medically diagnosed him. You know, it's supposed to be something that's neat, but it feels like they didn't choose anything that's that novel. But maybe that was some of the goal, was to make it not novel. But then they kind of say this weird thing about how, I guess, she deliberately gave just enough information so that if the king mentioned it to his royal practitioner, he'd be able to figure it out, because she's like, she knows he's a smart person, whatever. But then it's like, I don't know, it's a little weird, because it almost feels like they're talking about a disease that I wouldn't even know if they would even know what that is, per se. I mean, maybe they do, but it just felt a little off. Not bad and not unforgivable, just a little off. And it was just interesting, but, you know, the series is off to a slow start. I'm not even quite sure if it's made it past fundamental premise yet. Like, I don't think we can watch it and say, okay, we know what this is going to be like going from premise to premise. So, need more. I ended up not watching episode 2 of Metallic Rouge. It's just open in the tab, ready for me to click it and start it, but I guess I just didn't feel like it. Sengoku Yoku, episode 2. I can see why it's talking about things that are at synopsis, so it's not one of those things where it seems like it's spending the entire series just talking, building up to the synopsis. It's gotten past it. Entertaining enough stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything about it that I would say is definitely compelling and making anime deep, but I'm blanking on some stuff. It's not that it's doing anything bad. It's very neat stuff. I guess just nothing jumping out as worth talking about, I guess. Delicious in Dungeon, episode 3. I'd say this series is continuing to be pretty clever. And with this being in episode 3, I would say that, 3 episodes being pretty clever, not like too mind-bogglingly clever, and some decent action scenes in there. It was, kind of entertaining. It's a still very chill anime, but, it's just kind of pleasant to watch. Chain Soldier, episode 3. What happened in this episode? I guess it was okay, and there was interesting stuff. I guess if there's anything about it that I'm not quite sure about, it's the theming, and that's because episode 2 just made me kind of angry at people, but it might be okay. So from a 3-episode standpoint, it might be okay. It might be good. Hard to tell. Instant Death Ability is so overpowered, episode 3. Entertaining enough stuff, but, it's a little strange, I guess, in its execution, so, maybe that's... Oh, ouch, my head hurts, sorry. Maybe that's just the way it is. Witch and the Beast, episode 2. Trying to remember what happened in it. I do believe it felt like it was the first of a 2-parter. It was okay enough stuff. Just to kind of, I don't know, it feels episodic in a good way. Decent way, like comparable to something like Witch Hunter Robin or something like that. Except, of course, that it's a 2-parter it's doing now. So it might be more comparable to that one with the ogre and the immortal lady who's only got her head left. Maybe? I don't know. Sasaki and Peeps, episode 3. Let's see. So I was kind of surprised, and if this is episode 3, that's, bringing up the 3-episode. The 3-episode, okay, what should we think of this show? And seems nice, seems kind of chill, going back and forth with stuff. So I thought it was going to be doing more with the real-world Esper stuff. But it seems like it's, shifting back and forth in terms of stuff it's focusing on. I guess I'm not quite sure if there's anything very specific about episode 3 that I would say, oh yes, this is like mind-boggling story stuff per se. Just kind of nice, pleasant story stuff. It's like our main character is not an action hero or something like that. So, entertaining enough. I'm not quite sure if there's an end goal in mind. But entertaining stuff, I guess. Unwanted Undead Adventure, episode 3. I think was nice. I guess if there's any issue with episode 3, it's that it's kind of hard to tell what this series is going to be like as it goes forward, but it's been pretty entertaining as it goes, and so as a setup it feels fine. Like, I'm not quite sure if it's obvious that there's like an end goal to this story per se, but there kind of is. I guess there is a bit of a goal, and we are seeing it kind of progress in that general direction. So, yeah. Nice stuff. Free Rent Beyond Journey's End, episode 19. Very... I guess it's interesting. I'm trying to think if I have a lot of comment in terms of, like, the setup of the trial going on. Because it feels off, but I think it feels off in the right way, where it's like, yeah, this would be a horrible test, but that's because it's a test that's really trying to test people doing something that's not really impossible, but more difficult than you would think it should be. So, interesting enough. The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic, episode 3. If there's anything about this episode that I felt off about, it's that it kind of doesn't get animals. Like, it makes animals just act like people, but they're animals, sort of. And that's not necessarily bad, but it is one of those things where sometimes it could be like, okay, I'm pretty sure you don't understand, show. Like, it's the other way around, really. Humans are animals, but animals aren't humans, you know? It's weird. You can get into heads, but this one's just sort of like, oh yeah, I guess they do that. Maybe it's a magical monster beast sort of thing. I don't know. It's okay enough. It was doing stuff that oh jeez, sorry, feel a little weird and yawning and headaches sort of stuff. What was I saying? Oh well, Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic, entertaining enough. I guess if there's any issues, I don't know if the series as a whole is going to definitely be, oh yes, he's not always training. Because I said it felt like it wasn't going to do that. And still feels like it's not going to do that. But at the same time, it's hard to think, if it's not going to do that, what is it planning to do? It is saying some explicit stuff, but I guess I just don't know how it'll feel. So, kind of weird. Weakest Tamer began a journey to pick up trash, episode 2. I'd say there's a lot of things about the episode that were pretty nice. Like, I think I saw somebody making this comment, starting to make this comic, and I didn't read it because it's just like, yeah, if somebody watched it for an action, an overpowered hero or something like that, they watched the wrong thing, because it was pretty clear it wasn't necessarily about that, per se. I mean, like, I don't think the character's going to be OP. I think instead it's kind of about their value, even though they are seen as valueless to a certain degree. And there's a couple of those, and it's like, that's the sort of thing that you don't just build up at the first episode and just say, oh yes, and here they go, being the golden child. This is something you tell over the course of an entire series. And that feels like the kind of series that it is, and it's, yeah. It's an entertaining second episode. Let's scroll down, because we're getting closer to the bottom of the list. We got Solo Leveling, episode 3, which I would say that it might make the 3-episode rule hard to tell for solo leveling, just because it's only reached the point of it's starting to really explain at the point where the synopsis ends. So it's one of those slow-running series, but, you know, a lot of people have liked what they've seen so far, and I can't blame them, and it's okay. I think we also kind of have an idea for an end goal, but it feels like you just don't get a whole lot of episode per episode, I guess. So it'd be nice if we saw more. Strongest Tanks Labyrinth Raids, you know, the 99 Resistance Skill, episode 3. I don't know. let's see, we had a monster they hadn't seen before, and maybe a hint as to future stuff. But at the same time, it feels like it's not really living up to its title, I guess. I guess it got to a little bit for this episode, and it's okay. Just maybe a little on the weaker side. Tales of Wedding Rings, episode 3. So, I fucking hate the elves. The only thing that stops me from saying just genocide them all is maybe the princess is okay. You could almost say that some of her mannerisms are contributing to the problems. And the elder is actually pretty great. But you kind of find out they're just horrible people. And why? Oh, because of this previous horrible thing they did that they reacted to horribly, and they're just fucking horrible. Fuck them all. And I don't mean have sex with them, I mean just sterilize them all so there's no more elves or something like that. I don't know. I guess it would take too long to put them out of our misery, so... frustrating stuff, and probably similarly frustrating is... Well, I wouldn't call it similarly frustrating, because it was just frustrating, period. And some of the characters not calling this bullshit out as strongly... Also horrible. Horrible hypocrites. Fuck them all. I didn't watch Ragnar Crimson episode 14. I guess I just didn't have the energy to fire it up. Partially because the current conflict is not enticing me too much. A lot of the setup for it did, but the actual conflict, I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's hitting that Ragnar Crimson thing. I'm not giving up on the series, but we'll have to see if I would see more. Anyways. Fluffy Paradise, episode 4. So an interesting thing about this episode is I can't help but think that they should have included this content by episode 3. By that I mean, they're actually doing two important things with this episode that's like, you should have established that by now. One of those is they are establishing some forms of conflict that you could call legitimate conflict. So that kind of leaves the question of why did they wait until episode 4 to do that? But the other thing they did was they also tied things ever so slightly back into the main idea of the story that you could call the main story the main goal or something. So, in other words, it was a nicer episode than you might have expected because it is otherwise at high risk of becoming... I guess stale, and it seems like it's not, but oh well, you know, not everything's executed perfectly. Banished from the Hero's Party, season 2, episode 3. I guess it was just neat seeing them hang around. And I guess last time I forgot they were establishing a bigger story that I thought it's like, oh, maybe they already resolved this thing that I thought was since it's the bigger story, but no. Sorry, stupid hiccups. But no, it was this other thing, and, you know, it's entertaining enough. Don't know what else I would say, you know. Entertaining second season so far. 7th Time Loop. This would be episode 3, and seems fine. I say fine. It was definitely pretty entertaining. I thought episode 2 was more entertaining, and I did mention that I had my worry about the show using up its material too quickly. It doesn't feel like it's doing that. It definitely leaves me wanting to see the next episode quite a bit. But yeah, entertaining enough stuff. And yeah, I guess if I were to say there's anything about episode 3 that I have trouble telling, might make you not understand the series. It's this idea of, does it continue to be a Renaissance man sort of shoujo, or does it do something else? I don't know. We'll have to see. Tsukimichi Moonlight Fantasy season 2 episode 3. So if episode 2 really quickly introduced the other two heroes, episode 3 I guess caught us up to the past with those heroes so that we know how that's relevant to our main character's stuff to a degree. Which is unfortunate because, while it's okay stuff, the real exciting thing about the series is, of course, our main character. So, at this point, they have to show our main character and their interactions being interesting, and they especially need to make sure the interactions they have in this season are relevant to the heroes that they just introduced. Otherwise, it feels like a waste of introducing important characters. Like, they need to be big important. Guess we'll have to see. The Foolish Angel Dances with the Devil, episode 3. Not as frustrating as the beginning of the previous episode. Entertaining enough. Surprisingly, I would say this episode wasn't very rom-com-y. But, yeah, entertaining enough, I suppose. And then, 'Tis Time for Torture Princess, episode 3. You know, this, so far, if I'm going by the 3 episodes, I'm saying this show is doing a good job of just making me giggle a little bit every episode. You know, it's nothing too gut-bustingly funny, at least for me. You know, other people, I could see that easily being the case. But for me, it's more like I have little chortles and laughs, and I just enjoy its thought process. It's kind of funny. So, overall, I guess it's an enjoyable 3 episodes. Alright, so beyond that, let's see. Part of the reason I lost a lot of time this weekend and didn't watch a lot of anime is because I was doing a lot of Pokemon. In particular, I had been reaching the point where it feels like my boxes are too full. And really the main reason for that, the main driver of that is when it comes to filling out my Pokédexes in the last couple of generations, I prefer to do that by capturing as many Pokemon, because I can engineer capture Pokemon and then, you know, false swipe, hypnotize, Pokeball. Hey, he's caught. Nice and simple. And the raids just make it easier to catch certain rarer evolutions per se. You know, maybe you have to look a bit more, but you can also be a little bit patient and you try to figure stuff out in the multiple games. So, because of that, you know, I have multiple of species represented in my boxes, because I either caught all the evolutions of that species independently, or I evolved one or bred one or something like that in order to fill in gaps. So what I basically spent a lot of Saturday, maybe all of Saturday, I don't remember. I'm trying to think if I even went outside. So what I spent most of, if not all of Saturday doing, is going through the boxes, taking the Pokemon, like all the Pokemon of a certain evolution. So I would take a look at one and say, oh yes, this is Tyrogue, and so let me go find all my Tyrogues and Hitmonlees, Hitmonchans, and Hitmontops. See what all I have. Okay, I have one of all 4 of those. I'm not going to keep the Tyrogue, but I'll keep all the final evolutions since those are different branches. You know, look at things, say, okay, this gives me a hidden power. Oh, I actually have one of the Mightiest Mark that I can use for breeding purposes. I can use a lot of these shinies for breeding purposes, these trained Pokemon for breeding purposes. So if I ever want to start anything, I can just say, yeah, I have it somewhere in there in that game. And I reduced the boxes down to like half of what they were using before. Cleared up a lot of space. But it took most of Saturday to do it. And it was a little mindless. I was just going to have something, and I think it kept getting colder because it was just taking me so long to do. Anyways, fun stuff. Dead by Daylight, I need to start focusing on building up my blood points, because next week is the release of Alan Wake, and I want to make sure I have like my 200 blood points for that. Anything else beyond that? I feel like Lethal Company. I've been enjoying some Lethal Company. For those of y'all who noticed, I haven't been streaming it or anything like that. You know, it's not like I normally stream. But for those of you who've noticed, I have been playing it on a stream of a friend. Friend's the wrong word. Sorry, my sister-in-law. You know, my brother's wife. Tesla Tries. I guess if I'm mentioning her name here, I should probably link her Twitch and my YouTube or something like that. Or maybe not. I don't know. If somebody makes a comment saying, yes, I should link it, maybe I'll go in and edit it in. But otherwise, there's no real rush. We're just simple gamers. Do I have anything else to really comment about? I'm not sure. Definitely a little curious about Pal World. But not curious as in I'm going to fire it up. Just curious as in like... I wonder if I could get into it. I just don't feel the energy to try. Not that Lethal Company is a very... oh, you can do this on low energy kind of game per se. But it scratches a social itch that I guess I feel I need to scratch, even though it exhausts me. Which is why I think that even if I reach out to people and talk to people, I think I might still be kind of introverted. But I just push against this stuff that exhausts me for some reason. Oh well, I'm saying weird stuff and I'm playing around with a scissor in my hands. My mind's probably ready to go elsewhere. Y'all, have a nice week.